It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. You know, we're about 10 months out from the passage of Proposition 36, a measure that was supported by the vast, overwhelming majority of Californians, even in Los Angeles County. And that measure was supposed to undo some of the harm from Proposition 47, adding some teeth back to our drug laws and our retail theft laws. And one of the questions that we get all the time is just how effective Prop 36 has been. You have heard complaints from DAs like Nathan Hochman and others throughout the state that it's not being properly funded, especially the treatment aspect. But we have seen impacts in the way that law has changed. And that is something that gets illustrated every single time the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors has their, I think, bi-monthly meeting on closing Men's Central Jail. Many, many years ago, because of the decrepit, horrible conditions of Men's Central Jail, luckily I've never been, I know, surprising, right? The county voted to tear down this facility and replace it with a state-of-the-art mental health facility, because at least half of the jail population are people that are severely mentally ill, but we don't have any other locked facilities to put them except for the jail. Then in 2020, the makeup of the board had changed to the point where you had people like Hilda Solis, Sheila Kuehl, and convicted felon Mark Ridley Thomas on the Board of Supervisors. And those were the instrumental votes that decided we were going to abandon that plan of replacing Men's Central Jail with a state-of-the-art mental health facility with a care first, jails last approach. And what did that do? Well, that changed it to we're going to close Men's Central Jail and we're not going to replace it with anything, which leads to the question, where do the 4,000 inmates go? If you ask the current makeup of the Board of Supervisors, they don't know. Maybe out into the community. But here's the problem with that plan. What LA County didn't count on when it came to the Care First Jails Last initiative was the voters overwhelmingly reacting to the increases in crime that we have seen over the last decade in the state of California and specifically Los Angeles County. Overwhelmingly reacting to the reign of terror from former district attorney Jackass.
Do a Google on YouTube.
That we would actually do something that hasn't been done in California a long time and vote to strengthen our laws. Vote to increase enforcement. Vote out a DA who did not want to do his job.
Whoa.
And vote in a DA who wanted to do his job. And because of that, because you voted on Proposition 36, the jail population is going up, and there's nothing the County Board of Supervisors can do about it. I'm going to play you some segments from today's board meeting, as we'll hear what the current sheriff, Robert Luna, has to say about this plan, what the new district attorney, Nathan Hochman, has to say about this plan, and for bleeps and giggles, we'll hear what Holly Mitchell has to say about all this. But I'm going to start, even though he was at the end of the presentation, with Robert Luna, because this is the guy literally in charge of the jails. Let's hear what he has to say about the current plans and also about Prop 36.
I also want everyone to know that I fully support, as the sheriff of this county, that we divert and or keep the right people out of custody. And I stress it's the right people out of custody because community safety is all of our jobs.
Well, if you ask the county, they want to divert everybody, including dangerous people. More on that later.
And as we're listening to this conversation, the math isn't working out. I want to close down Men's Central Jail, but I have 4,000 justice-impacted individuals there.
That's a interesting way to talk about inmates, but sure, this is LA County. They're justice impacted.
Justice-impacted individuals there.
You know, it's so funny. When I hear that term, it reminds me of the former mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, because he was one of the first people to start saying that term. And I wish I had the sound of this. I don't think I had saved it at the time. But at one point, Eric Garcetti was talking about criminal justice reform and started talking about our
justice-impacted individuals there.
And he had a note to the people of Los Angeles. If you come across a
justice-impacted individuals there,
you should thank them for their service. Not that they were in the military, but they served in the jail. I wish I knew where that sound was. I'd hold on to it like a dear, dear treasure.
And as the math we're talking about increases over the next several years for a variety of reasons, and I do want to stress, and I'm going to say this again publicly, when I arrived here in this seat, we worked as a team to depopulate our county jail by about 14%.
That was when you had a different district attorney and you didn't have as tough of laws. Robert Luna knows that he cannot oppose the Board of Supervisors because the last sheriff to do that, Alex Villanueva, well, all kinds of things happened to him because he opposed the will of the Board of Supervisors and their Care First, Jails Last agenda, including budget cuts, including all these investigations.
We had the population down to 12,500. Proposition 36 passed.
By the way, and Nathan Hochman was the one to point this out earlier, and we'll play you that sound. But the population is roughly between 12 and 15,000 of people that are in LA County jails. It's a county of 10 million people. So it is a microscopically small percentage of the population that causes all the problems. Although these are the ones that are in custody, you could argue there's quite a few more than that out of custody for all kinds of reasons.
We had the population down to 12,500. Proposition 36 passed. Got to remind everybody by about 70% of our electorate.
And why is he pointing that out? Because here's the number that you all have been asking for.
And since then, our population has grown about 8.2%, and it continues to grow.
I believe the current number is somewhere between 700 and 800. I don't have the slides in front of me. But when we did this story a few months ago, it was 300. Proposition 36 is being implemented because you voted for it and you voted for a district attorney who was going to enforce that law. Now, because of the lack of funding for things like treatment, I guess that means there's a whole lot of people that are going towards jail. And it's actually interesting. I should pull it up later. Cal Matters did a deep dive into the implementation of Prop 36 and found, surprisingly, but maybe not surprisingly, when offered treatment or jail, there's still quite a few people that are drug-addled that were choosing jail. Maybe because it's easier to get drugs in jail? I don't know. But look at that. Pre-Prop 36, in the Gascon days, it was all about depopulation, get everyone we can out of jails, care first, jails last, no bail, all of this stuff. And now, even in Los Angeles County, because of a voters' initiative that you voted on, because you went to the polls last November and kicked out Mr. Wobbly Knees.
We got some wobbly knees allies.
The population of LA County jails is going up. It's gone up by 8% this year. I don't know if that's necessarily something to celebrate, but I'd rather have the repeat offenders that Prop 36 goes after, whether that's repeat retail thieves or repeat drug addicts who refuse treatment, in custody than out of custody. So that's pretty exciting. That is a win.
The inmates, the clients that I have in my care that are mentally ill is close to 50%. And I need you to know, as I talk to other sheriffs around the county, around the country, their number is about 60%.
But when we were given the opportunity and the budget and something we studied for over a decade to build that mental health facility we need, the 2020 makeup of the Board of Supervisors said, nah, we'll just let them all out into the community.
So if that's any indication, it's going to grow. So we do need space for our mental health population. And right now, as I sit here in front of you, I can tell you we don't have it right now. And I don't have a choice.
So there you go. Prop 36 is increasing the jail population in Los Angeles County. Let's hear from Nathan Hochman about all of this as he showed up to this hearing on how we're going to close Men's Central Jail.
And then I know that DA Hochman's sitting over there, and I talk about the courts. It's also the DA. You all weigh in on this, and I would just ask you, are you collaborating with the SIT on expediting case processing? Because I heard the number a year, and some of them have not gone before the courts.
Okay, we don't even know what your question is, Barker. Let's go to the DA.
Absolutely. We are working, and I commend Mr. Pickney and his team for giving us data. Data we didn't have. Data is information. Information is power. Power allows you to make better decisions. So in that respect, I applaud that effort. However, I want to give very briefly 3 observations. The first observation is just a numbers analysis that isn't part of this, but should be. We have, and I'll round it up or down to 10 million people in this county. 10% of that would be 1 million, 1% is 100,000, 0.1% is 10,000. So if you want to figure out our jail population in a percentage of the total amount of people in our county, 99.85% of our county is not in our jail population.
That's an interesting way to put that, especially for a county this massive, which I would argue should be broken up.
Percentage-wise, we're dealing with 0.15%, roughly. So, and the reason I say that is to the thought that we're going to get it down from 99.85% to 100%.
By the way, another weird thing to think about. The population of the homeless in Los Angeles County is more than 5 times, more than 6 times probably, the population of the people in jail. And which of those populations do you think cost us more on a daily basis?
Or 99.99%. I think I'd love to live in that world. I would absolutely love to live in a world where the criminals are figuring out that it's not worth it to commit crime in our community. So we can go from 99.85% to 99.99 or even higher percentage of people in our community not committing serious and medium serious crimes or having serious and medium serious mental illness when they do so. So that's observation number 1, is that we're kind of stuck because of our numbers with a certain population that is going to be committing these crimes for the foreseeable future. I think 14.
Not all the after-school programs in the world are going to stop a certain portion of the population from committing a majority of the crimes.
1,700 is probably a conservative estimate, depending on how if population keeps increasing. The second is in Mr. Pickney's presentation, his first point, first page, first slide, talked about increasing opportunities for deflection and diversion.
For a second, I wasn't sure where he was going with that one.
As ways to deal with our overcrowding problem and reducing the population in the jails in order to close it.
See, this is the ideology of care first, jails last, that jail is the last option, and we should find every single way to divert you into some kind of program that is run by some kind of nonprofit that's connected with the county that will change your life. And while for certain crimes that might be a possibility, there are plenty where it is not.
But I think there's one additional D that is the true solution to truly reducing the numbers to numbers we can deal with that give us a lot more options. And that's deterrence.
Oh, that's a bad word in LA County.
In other words, if we can deter criminals from committing the crimes in the first place, they never enter our jail system, mental health ridden or otherwise. So how do you actually deter the would-be criminal population from committing crimes so they don't enter our jails? And again, I'm not referring to the halcyon days of the 1960s and 70s, if they ever existed. I'm more referring to 2014, considered our safest year in the last 50 years. So
what happened after 2014? What was voted on in 2014 that completely changed the world of public safety in this state, let alone this county? Could it have been Prop 47?
Quite frankly.
So how do we get back to those numbers?
So, and I appreciate that, DA Hockman.
Oh, so she just cut him off. Well, that's a good time to take a break. We got a lot more to listen to because Hockman's got a lot to say, and then Holly Mitchell's going to passively aggressively go after him. But if you want to weigh in on this conversation, now's the time to do so. I'm opening up the phones. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. What do you think about LA County's plan that is ongoing to close Men's Central Jail without replacing it with anything? Do you think this is a wise option? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you support the LA County Board of Supervisors and their plan to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement? 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You want to weigh in this? You want to respond to the fact that Prop 36 has put 700 or 800 more people in LA County jails? Give us a call right now. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. We'll get to your calls next. We'll hear from Nathan Hockman, and we'll even hear from Holly. Equal time. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You voted on Proposition 36. 70% of you did. And because of that, the population of LA County jails, because of Prop 36 specifically, has gone up over 8% just in this last year, which is making it more difficult for LA County Board of Supervisors to implement something you did not vote for, closing Men's Central Jail without a replacement. So I'd love to hear from you. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Do you support the LA County Board of Supervisors plan to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement? Let's start with Dion in Long Beach. Dion, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing great.
Hello? Good. Yeah, I don't support them closing down the Men's Central Jail. We need it. Those numbers need to be more. And I'm not being cruel or facetious, but a lot of these criminals, they have to make a decision. You either don't do the crime and you stay out of jail. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. And we need more because these guys are repeat offenders and they won't stop until we stop them. And it needs to continue to happen so the community can feel the fruits of the labor of law enforcement when they get these guys off the streets. So at the end of the day, closing the jail would be completely disastrous and counterintuitive and counter to what the voters voted for. We voted for Prop 36 so these repeated offenders could stay off of our streets. No, not forever, but for whatever time they're supposed to get to give us relief from their criminal activity. So, no, I don't want to see it closed.
I think you make a heck of a lot of sense. And, you know, we have seen that when we have limited capacity in our jail system, there is a lot of repeat offenders that go into catch and release, and they just commit the crimes over and over and over again. And you have people who are in the system with dozens and dozens of misdemeanors. They're not changing their behavior, and there's no real answer of what to do with them. So I think you make a whole lot of good sense.
Yep. The answer is don't do the crime if you can't do the time, and we need to get back to that. Common sense, accountability.
I think a lot of people agree with that. Thanks so much for the call, Dion. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. Do you support LA County's plan to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement? Let's go to Dan in Linwood. Dan, hello.
Absolutely not. They need to have the city council come down here and hang out near my shop in Linwood and deal with the nightly crime sprees here, the giant burn piles that the homeless do, which as a business owner, if I have soap that leaves my driveway, they can fine me. The wastewater people will fine me thousands of dollars. But these homeless clowns burn these piles the size of a bus, and there's no repercussions for them, and yet they're doing horrible damage to the aquifer here, which city of Linwood uses city wells to get the drinking water. And it's absolutely nuts. There's gangs. It's just crazy here. And to think that they're going to close the jail and everybody's going to be nicey nice, it's nuts.
You know, you make such a good point about the the double standards that we have, the two-class system where, if you're a business owner, they're going to come down your throat if you're violating any kind of environmental law, any kind of regulation that they have. But when it comes to the criminal element in the guise of equity, because, these people might have had a bad upbringing, we can't do anything to punish them. And that is the kind of nonsense which has led 70% of the population to say yes on 36. Thanks so much for the call, Dan. Appreciate it. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. We'll take more of your calls, and we'll hear from Nathan Hochman and Holly Mitchell on differing opinions on closing Men's Central Jail in Los Angeles County. 800-222-KABC is the phone number. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We are going through the sound of today's LA County Board of Supervisors meeting where once again, the board talked about their ongoing plan to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement. If you'd like to email us, by the way, you could do so at randykabc@gmail.com. Susan writes in and says, "Hey, Randy, just wanted to say I'm loving your show tonight and can't stop listening to it. It's filled to the brim with great nuggets of information I did not know, and I was pretty tuned in. LA County jail population has significantly gone up this year, showing that Prop 36 is making a difference and being enforced. That's what's happening, according to Hochman, is deterring crime to a great extent already. Wow. I could go on, but I won't. And the show's not even half over yet. Why, thank you." Now, one of the things that Hochman showed up to this meeting to point out is not everybody can go into diversion, which is the current plan when you're going to depopulate a 4,000-person facility without replacing it with anything. Hochman, the floor is yours.
And I don't disagree with you. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have jails, right?
Right.
But to that point, there are individuals that would be better treated outside of the system as it relates to diversion. And
absolutely, but this is the big.
He does that as much as Shang, but I'm going to give him a pass.
Absolutely, but this is the big caveat. Here's what we've actually seen as the mental health laws have been applied to our criminal justice system. If you have a felony, you are looking at mental health diversion possibilities that'll basically be an off-ramp from the criminal justice system. Let me give you a very real situation.
And these are laws that are being increasingly exploited all throughout the state of California. The sheriff in Sacramento, Jim Cooper, tried to get legislation put forth to cut out some of these loopholes, but it did not get out of committee. But listen to Hochman explain the way the system works. If you commit a crime, even a violent crime, but you claim that you did it because of a undiagnosed mental illness.
An individual committed domestic violence. He beat his wife to a pulp in 2015, convicted, got probation. Did it again in 2017, beat his wife to a pulp, got actually 1 year of state prison.
By the way, this is also after effects of Prop 47 and 57. I don't know if you know this, but technically, according to state statute, domestic violence is not a violent crime. It's not considered as one because you have to do a whole lot to actually get sent to prison for it.
Then in 2025, February of this year, he did it a third time. He goes in through his defense attorneys and ODR and says,
If that's all to the same woman, boy, does she need help.
He goes in through his defense attorneys and ODR and says, I have undiagnosed schizophrenic disorder. I don't even know what that is. ODR submits a one-page letter with no backup.
Okay, so to recap, we have a repeat offender who keeps beating his wife up. Now that the laws have changed, he is using a new loophole in the law to say, I shouldn't have to go to jail or prison for beating my wife up because I have a mental illness. And it is not on the defendant or the defendant's attorney to prove that mental illness had something to do with the crime. It's actually on the DA to prove that it didn't.
ODR submits a one-page letter with no backup, having conclusion saying, this person has undiagnosed schizoaffective disorder, and there's a treatment facility, an unlocked treatment facility, we can put that person in. We opposed it mightily in the court. The court agreed with it. The person went into this treatment facility unlocked. And you know where this story goes. Walked out of the facility, and now his wife is in a coma, and the 3 kids aren't going to have a mother or a father. So my point to you, Supervisor Barger, is this. For the right case, without violence in the background, without serious committing of crimes, having never had the opportunity for mental health treatment, we will be the first proponent to get as many people in ODR as we possibly can. ODR is actually That's
the Office of Diversion and Reentry. But yeah, if you're a repeat offender, especially for something as heinous as that, how many chances exactly are we supposed to give you? I mean, at that point, that story specifically, I'd want to get all Saudi on his ass, and if you keep punching your wife, we're chopping your hands off.
ODR is actually the best program out there for mental health treatment. They do a very good job of screening the facilities, the unlocked facilities, because they're mostly unlocked, to do it. However,
can we get some locked facilities? Oh, that's right. We've talked about this before. You can't actually have locked facilities with more than 16 beds because of some bizarre rule that was passed by Congress in the late 90s because they won't go. You can build them, but they won't get reimbursed by Medicaid. And it's something called IMD. And we're in the process of trying to figure out an IMD waiver because it's something the new federal administration is pushing for us to do. But the way LA County wants to do it is they want to use it for more unlocked mental health facilities.
Where the system is putting violent and serious offenders into unlocked facilities, we are going to oppose that on behalf of the victims every single time.
No, and I hear you, DA Huckman, but I also know that the judges are equally as apprehensive. And so
well, there's that too. Criminal law enforcement, there's a lot of different legs to a stool. And it's funny. I have used this analogy before, and apparently so has Hockman. And I don't think I got it from him, but it's low-hanging fruit. You've got to have law enforcement that is staffed up and able to do their job to make an arrest. Because if you don't make an arrest, you cannot do anything. Then you got to have a DA that is willing to file charges. For 4 years, we did not have that.
So we're mindful of all these things, but.
And in fact, in San Francisco, they had that problem for 8 years of him and then a year and a half of Chesa Boudin. But now you got a DA that wants to do their job. You've got a police department that is adequately staffed. LA, not really, but in San Francisco, they're getting there. You also have to have judges that don't want to just let people out over and over and over again. And that's difficult. And that is why you got to pay a lot of attention when elections come about and there's all these judges. If you don't know anything about them, don't vote for any of them. Do your research or leave it blank. That's my advice.
And so we're working with the judges, Your Honor. Your Honor,
I was like, wow. Okay.
You're supervisor. You're chair.
But
looks like Barger got a promotion. When we come back, we're going to hear from Holly Mitchell, who, even though she wasn't on the board when the board voted to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement, she's a huge advocate for it, and she's also the fairy godmother of Housing First. She's the one that wrote that law in the state Senate that changed the way that we allow people to go into shelters and bring their drugs with them. But we'll hear what she has to say about all this, because she's got some choice passive-aggressive words for Nathan Hochman. That's all coming up. If you want to comment on LA County's plan to still close Men's Central Jail without a replacement, give us a call. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. If you'd like to email us, you can do so, randykabc@gmail.com. Stuart in Seal Beach writes in, Randy, let's close Men's Central Jail for 3 days after installing leg bracelets on all the prisoners. Provide the home addresses of the county supervisors in support of the jail closing, since the base salary of each supervisor is $244,000 per year, so they have lots of stuff to steal. 3 days later, reopen the jail and start the recall of the supervisors who vote for closing the jail. Intelligent Democrats, an oxymoron, will abandon the Democratic Party and become independents. Well, there's an idea for you. And it's interesting. Of the people that voted to close Men's Central Jail without a replacement and scrap that plan that took over a decade in the making of building that mental health facility, one of them's retired, Sheila Kuehl, and one of them is awaiting prison in Mark Ridley Thomas. The other one's Hilda Solis, and she's termed out. Hey, look at this. Do I have something exciting for you? 790 KABC welcomes Leonid and Friends, the world's greatest Chicago tribute, at the Canyon in Agora Hills on November 4th. Tickets are on sale now at AXS.com, but right now, caller number 9 at 1-888-790-5222 gets a pair of tickets to the show. Tickets furnished by the Canyon, where music meets the soul. Good luck dialing. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's go to Dale in Long Beach. Dale, hello.
Hey, Randy. I'm just curious, of all the new inmates over at the county jail, I wonder how many crimes did they commit before they got caught?
Oh, I'm sure they caught over and over and over again. You got to remember, these are all people that were catch and release over and over and over again. And the only reason that they're finally in the jail is because of Prop 36 and having a DA that actually wants to do his job. Thanks so much for the call, Dale. Appreciate it. Let's hear what Holly Mitchell has to say about all this.
And I was reminded, I looked over my shoulder and saw DA Hochman was here, but when he was here last Tuesday, he talked about his three-legged stool that focused on justice, that law enforcement investigates and arrests, the DA prosecutes, and again, he said that the board sets priorities and we fund it.
That's when they cut his budget, because he's not playing their game.
What he didn't call out in board priorities are things like prevention, which I acknowledged last week, depopulation.
Prevention meaning let's fund a bunch of after-school programs, like, I don't know, that nonprofit that the city of LA was giving money to for over a decade for after-school football that turned out to be a front for the gangs.
Depopulation, diversion. I hear that he added a fourth leg to his stool today with deterrence, and I think that's important. But when I look,
no, you don't.
But when I look at this, the jail population projection, the chart you gave, and the 1,400, 500, if, and that's the pivotal word in that sentence, all current conditions remain the same, based on my experience, just 5 years on the board, they will not.
Yeah, people might still be fed up with their lack of government and either change the makeup of the Board of Supervisors. Anything could happen, maybe. Or if our criminal laws are still not tough enough, now that we know we can solve this at the ballot box, maybe there'll be yet another initiative to solve some more of the loopholes.
Prop 36. Frankly, the orientation of this DA, as we heard today. You say in this chart...
We can't depopulate because we have a DA that's actually doing his job now.
Quite frankly.
Let's not forget, Holly Mitchell unapologetically voted to endorse George Gascon the first time and the second time. Do I have that sound somewhere? Yes, I do.
If you choose to hold me accountable to Mr. Gascon's work, so be it.
That's why I keep things on the hot bar.
You say in this chart, expanding ODR by 1,000 beds we have worked to try to get permanent funding. The DA continues to challenge who he feels should go to ODR versus.
Did you just hear his explanation of the repeat domestic abuser that got diversion and then once he got out, put his wife in a coma? I guess Holly doesn't care about that story.
I think ODR's perspective and practices that they've enlisted. And while the sheriff continues to tell us that crime is down, even serious crime across most charges across the entire county, our numbers continue to go up in terms of who's in jail.
But don't you see the connection there? If we're reporting drops in crime, maybe it's because there are 800 repeat offenders that are currently in the jails that are not out victimizing the citizens of Los Angeles.
The sheriff is promoting the wellness center. How we define what that will be continues to be seen. I'm hoping that DMH and other county departments
that's Department of Mental Health
will weigh in and opine to figure out what we build for whom and where.
See, Hochman was advocating for what you need is what the county previously was going to do. A large state-of-the-art facility centralized where we could put all these people. But the county doesn't want to do that. What they want to do is build a whole bunch of tiny unlocked facilities in your neighborhoods, and that's where these people will be. Put them into the community.
You know, the board.
For some reason, the idea of centralizing a problem just gets so much pushback. Like, you know, so many people have called in over the years whenever we do a homeless topic and they say, well, why don't we just have a gigantic mental hospital, recovery hospital, old army base? Why don't we centralize the problem? And you'll hear elected over and over again say, no, you're taking these people away from their community. No.
You know, the board made a decision to not build a big single mental health facility. The DA said...
Maybe what we need to do is put that on the ballot. Maybe that's what we have to do. Since the Board of Supervisors is currently made up of people that want to keep that jail closed and not replace it with anything, maybe we got to have something on the ballot. In fact, when Nathan Hochman was on with me last week, he said that's something he's going to explore. Thank you all so much for participating in this show. If you learned something new today, tell your friends about it. Not just about what you learned, but where you learned it from. And download the podcast by searching for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.